Hi, this is Danny. Welcome to this Mostly Sax YouTube channel. A couple of weeks ago it was my birthday, so I'm sporting a birthday t-shirt from my kids. It's great being a dad, but it does mean probably a lifetime now of novelty presents. Today I have 3 lines for you which are excellent for building up to a climactic point in a solo. So they're all going to be ascending lines reaching a point of power. A point of what? Interest? Anyway, one of them is one of my favourite lines of all time, a David Sanborn thing, but we'll leave that one till last. This first one is probably the strangest and easiest to play, so we'll start with this one. So to go back to when I first started playing in bands, a lot of the time I worked with guitarists. Not only working with guitarists, but I worked with guitarists with distortion. I was like a rock sax player, if that's not a contradiction in terms. And when I was learning how to play sax, because I was always in a band with a guitarist, a lot of the kind of influence that I took on the saxophone was directly from the guitar. If you've watched my video called The Trick, that was basically because I was trying to keep up with a guitarist that was tapping all the time, like the Van Halen tap stuff. So I came up with The Trick as something that I could do that was as close really as a sax player can get to tapping. So this first line comes from when you see a guitarist drop right down to the bottom end of the guitar and they kind of build up. There's so much distortion on, maybe they're using the wah pedal, and there's not really a lot of definition to the notes that they're playing, but they build and build, and it's kind of like just a development of noise that by the time they get up to like the 14th, 16th fret to a big bend on the E string, they reach this point. And this is kind of my attempt to try and do that sort of thing on saxophone. So in my head, I am aiming for a high E, meaning the 2 side keys and this knuckle key in the right hand. And I know that that's where I'm going for. I also, if the band are playing, know the beat that I'm aiming for, and I can hear it coming, and I know on the 1 or whenever, I'm going to hit this E. So what I do as I'm waiting for that beat to come along, I do this line. And basically what you do is, we start down the bottom end of the range of the instruments. I'm kind of low D, and I mix up chromatic notes, notes that are in the key, everything, any note that I can play. And what I tend to do is bend around the notes, so like guitarists do, you lose the definition in the notes. Now that one takes a little bit of imagination because you need to imagine a track that's kind of heavy and reaching this sort of thing, and if you were doing that live, the kind of effect it would give. Me playing it in my living room in front of a piano, yeah, it's kind of lost a little bit in translation, but it's one to try next time you're out with a band. For this second line, I'm going to be in A minor for the alto, so C minor, concert. And for this line, what I'm going to do is start quietly on a D and build the volume through a crescendo, which means growing and getting louder in music. And I'm going to grow through to, again, this high E, same as the last one, and I'm going to grow in volume until I hit this high E. The notes that I play are from A minor pentatonic, so A, C, D, E, G, and then A again. But I start on the D. You may remember, if you've seen these videos, that I talk quite a lot about not limiting yourself when you play scales from the root to when the root appears again. Play across the range of the instrument. So this time we're starting down on low D. And what I do is go up 3 notes, so D, E, G. Then I jump back to the note before, which is E. So D, E, G, then E, G, A, G, A, C, A, C, D. So I'm going up 3, back 1, up 3, back 1, up 3, and back 1. Now if you play this without the crescendo, it sounds like this. To me, that's lacking in the expression of the kind of place that you would find that you would be using that solo. It feels very scalic and feels like a little bit like kind of I suppose like an amateurish line. It is quite an easy line in all fairness, but when it's just bang like that, I have a friend that would say velocity 127, meaning that it's just all out, as loud as you can go and just run through the scale. When we introduce the crescendo and we start softly and build through to a climactic point, the high E, you get a sense of movement and development in your solo. So that's line 2. That's something that you can use in your solos, and it works in any key. You just need to know the notes that you're using and the way that the pattern develops. Now, this line is one of my absolute favourites. It's a David Sanborn thing that he plays in Benny, and it is just mega. It starts on a low D. We're using D major pentatonic or B blues. Again, I've got a video about that if you want to look back through my stuff. But we start on a low D, we hit the D, and we go F natural to F sharp. So you get that quick flick between those two notes. This is all without the octave key down the bottom end. D, F sharp, F natural to F sharp to A. If you like, it's a D major arpeggio, but it has an F natural flick between the F and the F sharp. From the A, what we do is we go to a B flat. I use the side key to a B, and up to the D. Then all you need to do is repeat that again in the second octave. So basically the same thing, but you have the octave key on. Now with this line, you can stretch out the rhythm, you can add different bits of kind of articulation, the way that you want it to sound, again, rhythmically. You can change the dynamic on it, so start softly and build through, but it's entirely up to you. The notes are there, and it's just something to try out. It's a great line because you can make it last for quite a long time, and if you aim it right in the solo and the context of what's going on, you can build a lot of tension with that. The way that it ends in the Sanborn track is he plays a fork, I think they call it a fork, high F sharp. So instead of an A with the octave key, this finger comes up, and we use the bottom B flat key of the 3 on the right. And what that will do, it'll split, meaning that you can achieve the high F sharp, and it will try and play an F sharp lower, 1 octave lower than that, and it fights between those two notes. It's a great effect. I think you'd probably agree that's quite an effective building line, particularly to that, you know, if you can get that split F sharp, if the key works for you to use an F sharp. So I've got one more line, just because the first chromatic one isn't technically a line, it's more of an effect. This one it's similar to guitarists building when they use a whammy bar, but it's an effect again that I've tried to move on to the saxophone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up D minor pentatonic, so D, F, G, A, C, and D at the top. So again, we're climbing up to this climactic point. And what I'm going to do is fall off by bending the notes. And the reason I'm doing this is because you lower your jaw. And I'm going to drop off every note, so you get a drop in pitch. And then when I return, so my embouche is set properly again, it's on the next note up. So D, drop, F, drop, G, drop, and through the scale that way. I'm actually going to go up to a high F. I'll just give it a little try, and it doesn't sound quite right landing on the D. So I'm going to go up to the minor third to the F. So as always, thank you for watching. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already subscribed for more of this kind of sax stuff, mostly sax stuff.